Arsenal, they kicked off the season with a win against Coventry City, a 3-0 win. It was a very dominating performance, very, very dominating. You know what I think? I think Arsenal are going to go on to sustain the league title. The rest of the league aren't really serious. Arsenal has shown you more grit, they've shown more passion to win it. And I feel like they deserve it if they, go for it and then they win it again. I feel like they deserve it. Michael Arteta is a world class manager. He is world class. I made a video some time ago commending his efforts, commending how well he drilled his team. He drilled them seriously down to the fact that they had to understand, his gameplay. This isn't really about maximizing, the potential of the players. He made sure that they understood the system, which is very rare these days. And props to the Arsenal board also for giving him the time. Without the time that he got, he wouldn't have been able to do this. The journey wasn't really smooth, but he had the time to properly drill the team, and they are reaping its reward. So I'm sure they are very happy they stuck with him, even when fans had doubts. And then Hull City, there's obviously no need for that. But one thing I would say is this club in general. Let's not even just talk about what we see on the pitch. This club in general, what we see in terms of their intention, it is just terrible. If you want to win, why don't you act like a club that wants to win? We have quality players that are willing to play for this club. They are willing to put everything on the line for this club. But for some reason, we are still stuck with some old cargoes, some players that we're not even supposed to have in big 2026. And I feel like this is a very, very, very terrible illness. I feel like something is genuinely wrong with these guys upstairs, because you can't give me a genuine reason why some of these players are still at the club. I feel like we have not been ruthless enough. This has been like a very terrible trend that has been going on for quite a while. We are not just ruthless. It is that easy, players that haven't, lived up to either their price tag or the expectations that the fan had for them. I see no reason why these guys should continue. I mean, we can talk about what Michael Carrick does. We can talk about this. This is only the third game that he has lost as a Manchester United coach. You heard that right. I know it might be a small sample, but work with me. 20 matches managed, 12 wins, 5 draws, and then just 3 defeats. Good record, if you ask me. Very, very good record for a manager who came in the middle of the season. A week from now, the window closes. What are we doing about our left back situation? What are we doing about our left wing situation? What are we doing about our defense? Even the defense, I feel like it needs work. I would say it over and over again. There are some players that shouldn't be there. Seriously, if we want to, establish ourselves as a top 4 team, because over these past years, the truth is that we have been very, very inconsistent. This would be a time to establish ourselves. A lot of players shouldn't be here. I'm talking Luke Shaw, even Lisandro Martinez, and Mazraoui. I can't forget him. So these 4 players, they are all defenders in a very crucial position. You have players that are very, very inconsistent with their performances. So why on earth do we still have them at a club like United? I feel like we should really be ruthless. When you sign a player 2 seasons in, if they're either disturbing with injuries or, their performances are very, very inconsistent, you just let them go. We do not have time to start babysitting guys. We are paying them good money. If you check the wage bill, I'm sure we have one of the biggest wage bills, because we pay players well. So if they aren't living up to, what we expected from them right from the start, why are they still at the club? Makes no sense to me, honestly. I said I wasn't going to say much about it, but I've spent minutes talking about it. But let's move on. So it was a very good win for Everton and a clean sheet at home. Everton 2, Crystal Palace 0. Crystal Palace so far, what they've done in this transfer window has been bad. And I could say the same thing for a lot of teams in the Premier League this season and also last season. I mean, if you want to take a step further, right? If you want to, show a bit more intent, probably go for the Europa Conference League qualification or Europa League qualification. It should show in what you produce in your recruitment. This isn't even about what I believe anymore. It should just be the normal standard. Imagine signing a player like Gesand, a player, I don't know how to pronounce the name very well, I'm sorry, but a player like Gesand, right, who they just signed from Aston Villa. It was an initial loan, and I think they eventually negotiated a deal to make the transfer permanent. Permanent or not, he shouldn't be there. He should not be there. let me shock you. This guy had 3 goal contributions last season for Crystal Palace. 3 goal contributions. So and he's an attacker. He is an attacker. So I genuinely don't know what, really attracted them, what they really saw in his gameplay. Because all things considered, they've really invested poorly in the attack, this season and last season. I think the last bit of transfer they did was Ismail Assar. I feel like after Ismail Assar, the kind of players that they have been signing, they haven't really, lived up to their expectations. The question is, what is the expectation in the first place? I mean, you sign guys like Brennan Johnson. I mean, what was he doing at Tottenham that made you sign him? Even Tottenham fans were complaining. They were obviously very happy that he got a win against Manchester United. And what has happened so far in this window, the poor recruitment particularly, I feel like it is going to eventually come back to bite a lot of clubs. I'm talking about Crystal Palace. I'm also talking about Liverpool, because so far they haven't really done anything meaningful this window. Aston Villa, they had a lot of important players sold. I'm talking Digne, Tillemans, Morgan Rogers for a club record fee. And we have to ask, what are the measures that you have put in place to, replace these guys? You got in João Gomez, good player, do not get me wrong, he is a good player. But then, is he going to fill in the shoes of Tillemans? No. No, one thing I actually think, though, I feel like no matter how bad your Honda is, I feel like you will always get a buyer for it. I mean, look at it now. There are clubs that are currently interested in Liam Delap. We have Nottingham Forest and also Everton, all interested in Liam Delap. No matter how bad the player is, there will always be a club that is interested. I mean, look at the name and look at Everton. They were involved in a swap deal, and it involved Brennan Johnson. So no matter how bad a player is, there will always be a club that will be out there for him. And also, it was a win for Ipswich against Sunderland. They newly promoted him at home. They won Sunderland. Sunderland obviously had more of the possession, but possession isn't really domination. They had more touches in their box. I mean, Ipswich had more touches, had more shots, had more chances. So that to me is domination. So good game from Ipswich Town. This is a very good chance for them to also establish themselves like both Sunderland and Leeds. So good game from them. And Nottingham Forest lost to Leeds at home. They lost, 1-0 to Leeds at home. That's terrible, 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 terrible. Terrible debut for Oliver Glasner. I'm sure it wasn't one that, he had planned. They lost a very key player in Anderson, and they haven't really replaced him. Obviously, they can try, but this is a really, really good player that, ticked all the boxes for them. And looking at how they've done so far in the window, they haven't really done much, to be honest. But, they've signed, some good players here and there. They signed Diomande. I really like that guy. The centre-back from Sporting. So, yeah, can only hope that these teams, eventually get to find their feet. I feel like that's also one of the reasons why I won't really do much analysis on them, because a lot of them are still, they are still finding their feet. A lot of new coaches coming in and, still trying to implement their system for the players to understand. So that will take a bit of time. I guess we'll be monitoring their progress. And Brentford annihilated Tottenham at home. 3-0. It was a perfect performance for them. You have to give credit to the Brentford coach. I can't remember his name right now, but you have to give him credit. I think over last season and this season, after they lost Thomas Frank, they did very, very, very well. It was very, very impressive what they did with him, in terms of also set pieces. I think it was their set piece coach. So looking at what he's doing now as an actual coach is really good stuff. Honestly, I feel like Brentford are one of the best teams in the league right now in terms of how well they are run, looking at their recruitment, they brought in Sangare, a very good player. And they've always had this consistency in the kind of players that they sign. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why they are still in the Premier League right now. They love a bit of physicality. They love players with, a bit of physicality in them. Looking at Coyote, looking at Diouf right now that they are trying to sign. Obviously, very good talent, still has a long way to go, but looking at what he does right now is really, really, really going to be a good player. So they've done really, really well, and I think they would keep on doing well. And for Tottenham, after signing good midfielders for loads of cash, this is what you have to show for it. Terrible performance all around. Terrible performance all around. And I feel like it is only a matter of time. De Zerbi is like a ticking time bomb. Looking at how he performed in his other clubs, you can only expect that it's going to be the same with Tottenham. I don't know if it is just something with his kind of person, but I am expecting it. He has been backed heavily this summer. They are still going for more players. They are still going for Omar Mamush, and I think they've also gotten Savio. So you see, one thing that I would always say for Tottenham is it really isn't about how you spend. It is about what you spend on. Look at the kind of players they're signing, for crying out loud. After, trying to reshape your defense, so their backline to an extent is decent. Midfield, good. Matheus Fernandes, Tonali, Bentaker, and then they have Madison. Good players. But then looking at what they are trying to do in terms of their attack, oh my God. Signing someone like Savio, what really has he done in City? What is his output? As I will always say, I feel like what a club should prioritize when signing a winger is their outputs. I mean, all the tricky fits and all is good, but what is it if it doesn't produce anything? I feel like the output or the efficiency of your dribble should be one of the things that you should look out. And talking about efficiencies, I don't think Savio is one of those players that you can say is very, very efficient after, the dribbling action takes place. How many goals did he score last season for Man City? How many goals did he score last 2 seasons for Man City? Don't get me wrong, he's a good talent. He did very well at Girona. I did watch him and he did very well. But looking at what Tottenham are doing right now and looking at how he's going to help them, I really don't see it with them. I feel like who they are bringing in currently to help their attacking situation in Mamouche isn't also really going to help them. We currently have Matthias Tel playing left wing for them, a striker who is versatile, playing left wing for them. There's only so much that you can do. I feel like there are way better players out there that they could have gone for. They could have probably even gone for Rashford. He's an efficient dribbler. Knows the next line of action that is going to come after it. Is either crossing it or he's, taking a shot, and those are efficient wingers. I feel like they could have also gone the way they went for Robertson in Liverpool. They could have probably gone for Salah. Just my thoughts. I feel like they had a chance to go for him. It isn't like there is any sort of crazy rivalry going on between Liverpool and Tottenham. So it would have been a good chance for them to sign really good wingers and invest heavily in those positions. Not just invest heavily, invest in good players that can actually make a difference. Manchester City under their new era with Maresca. Ignore the rhymes. They got the win, started with the win, a 2-1 win against Bournemouth. Felt like Bournemouth had the game in control at some point and looked like they were going to win. And then 2 late goals from City, just snatched the points. Football can be really cruel, but it is what it is. And, I'm sure City fans had a lot of questions for that performance. But like I said, it is still a very new season. It's going to take a bit of time for these coaches to get used to their performances. I think I'll pick this out and I'll watch more of it in the coming games and I'll make a piece on it. And then finally we have Fulham Chelsea. It was a win for Chelsea, a good win for them. It wasn't under the best conditions, but they got a win. Looking at how they played under Xabi Alonso, I'm sure the fans are very happy and pleased with the win. But I'm sure at the same time, they would expect way more from the performances and also in terms of the team selection. Having about 4 or 5 defenders out there, it really isn't an ideal situation. I feel like it would have been good if they had, really good wing backs or, wing midfielders in a situation whereby, they had a pace to, go behind that Fulham's defense. But all in all, it was a good performance from Chelsea. And when I mean good performance, I mean good individual performances. I mean, Morgan Rogers got a debut goal, by the way, and then Cole Palmer. I feel like he's going to be an integral part to how Xabi Alonso plays on the pitch. It was everywhere in that midfield for them. Midfield, like literally midfield. That's half space. That's right and half space, and it was also even getting into the left hand half space. It was a very good performance for me. I'm expecting a whole lot from him this season. He has locked me in. This performance that he puts out there, he has to maintain it because I'm going to be monitoring his progress. But it was a good performance, and defensively I don't think they were very convincing, but obviously, like I said, new coach, new players. I mean, Lacroix, he actually even got an assist in the game, so it was also a fairly solid debut for him. So I'm sure Xabi Alonso, a very good coach, I'm sure he's going to be able to work out what is best for the team. And I have to add that Chelsea, looking at the kind of squad that they have right now, they have a very huge talent pool.